The late 70s had an obsession with disaster flicks like The Towering Inferno. These were all sort of B-movie type disaster movies where they crammed in as many possible recognizable star names into these massive, again, just B-movie demonstrations of a natural disaster or a disaster like Towering Inferno. They were all a little ridiculous, but they have a redeemable quality that makes them worth rewatching today in that sort of B-movie vibe, but they were considered more like big blockbusters back in the day, and some of them were fairly successful despite their mediocre quality. Others completely bombed, like today's flick, The Swarm, which again you can see them displaying all the cast on there. And this dares to ask the question, what is more horrifying than mutated African bees? And what makes this such a terrible movie in so many ways, but in that same sense a joy to watch now, is its attempt to be so dramatic and over the top with something like bees. And the way they do it, it just seems ridiculous and absurd. It is based off a book that I have not read, so I'm not sure how much better it does at telling the story and making it feel more like an ecological disaster, because in this movie, it feels almost like it's giving it a horrifying monster vibe to this, and it just doesn't quite work, and it's bogged down by terrible, terrible dialogue, poor pacing. Just overall, it's absolutely awful in every respect, but it's kind of funny to watch for all those same reasons, and that's a fine line that doesn't always work, and some of these it doesn't. I do think The Towering Inferno is one that holds up pretty well, and The Swarm, I think, holds up in that respect. It's actually one of the worst from the era, easily. It's one that Michael Caine has denounced many times, saying it's one of the worst things he's ever been in. But it holds up for that reason, only because it's kind of funny to watch and fairly quotable. And if you do want to see this movie and you want to get it on a more retro media, avoid anything except the LaserDisc version, because otherwise you're getting the 116-minute theatrical version, which is bad enough. But, if you want more of that terrible dialogue, if you want the pacing to be even slower, if you really want to get some more information and more scenes and extend that fun B-movie time, then go with The Swarm on LaserDisc, because this gives you the theatrical trailer on top of it, pretty exciting, but this is also 156 minutes instead of 116, so an extra 40 minutes there. It is a huge difference, and it's can be a bit of a drag to watch at times, but if you're with the right people and you're in the right mood, it can actually be a whole lot of fun. So not a very good movie, but it is a whole lot of fun, a box office disaster, a critical disaster, and one that many people who are involved with Michael Caine in particular is fairly ashamed of being in. And so overall, a movie that was just a total bomb, but revisiting it, 40-something years later, I guess now already, it's actually pretty fun and exciting, and definitely a cheap one to find on LaserDisc, and get that version because it gives you the complete picture whether you want it or not.